What we've done today is the Corps of Engineers and the state of Louisiana have signed an agreement that will put together a model that will mimic the Mississippi River, as well as a study to develop what in fact that model shows us and how we can use freshwater and sediment to help recreate land loss in Louisiana.
The most important thing about this announcement today is that it's changing 80 years of mismanagement. You know, that when levees were put on the river, a very, very important project to build those levees on the river. And the levees help to prevent flooding and been very successful, and they've helped to ensure the navigational supremacy that Louisiana enjoys today. But at the same time, you know, the environmental loss has just been incredible. And I think for years and years, folks thought of it as just being, you know, out in the wetlands where it didn't really matter. But it does matter. It matters because it's not out in the wetlands anymore. It's right up against our populated areas in South Louisiana, and it's not an area that doesn't matter. It's an area that is vital for our fisheries. It's vital for our energy industry. Serves as a buffer for hurricanes and storm surge, and it's why Louisiana is sportsman's paradise. And all those things are put in jeopardy unless we make changes. And this lays the groundwork for those changes. So it's a great day.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you. My name is Jerome Zarang. I'm the Executive Director of the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority, and thank you all for coming today for a very historic event. Unless we have a better understanding of the river, it limits our ability to restore and protect our coast and achieve what we all want is a resilient, sustainable coast is what we're trying to achieve. And this study will help shed some light on that, and we're looking forward to really getting it started. And with that, to explain a little bit more about the study and where we're headed, I'd like to introduce the Colonel of the New Orleans District, Colonel Fleming, who was instrumental in helping get this study started and get it going. So, Colonel.
Thanks, Jerome. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good afternoon. I think this is a beautiful setting to be able to sign this agreement. The State Museum and the beautiful backdrop that we have of the third largest watershed in the world that drains 41% of the nation. And the agreement that the state and the federal government are going to sign this morning is very instrumental. You know, we've talked a lot about the loss of land in the state of Louisiana and how we can bring it back. And there is really one instrument that we can use to bring it back, and that is the Mississippi River. It is the Mississippi River that made this part of the country, and it is the Mississippi River that will remake this part of the country. And when you look at this, there are really three pieces to success when you talk about rebuilding land in the state of Louisiana. One is diversions of freshwater and sediment. The second one is land masses and creation of land bridges. And then the third piece is barrier islands. And as you bring all those three pieces together, you can start to get real recreation of land in this part of the state of Louisiana. And so it gives me great joy to be here today with Garrett to be able to sign this agreement on behalf of the federal government. And I think it's important to remember that this is agreement that the state and the Corps of Engineers have put together over a long period of time. It's a very close relationship that we have, as well as with the non-governmental organizations that are also represented here today. So this is, in fact, a great joy for me to be here to represent the federal government. There are really two pieces to this. There's a hydrodynamic model, and then there's the study of the delta. What the hydrodynamic model will do, among other things, is it'll consolidate a lot of the data that we have in some other models, and it'll make one particular model for the Mississippi River from Old River down. It'll help us determine what is available for freshwater and for sediment. And before you do the engineering, you need to have the science. And this is going to help us with that particular science. This will help us determine where in the river you can build a diversion, to what depth that diversion should be built. It will help us to know what part of the year, what times of the year that diversion should be operated to gain the most efficiency to help to create the most land that we can. And so this model is very important in doing that. And again, on the Delta study side, that also is hugely important as we look at how we can restore the deltaic growth again in this part of the state. And this is not going to be easy, and this is not going to be fast. This study here is a 5-year study, and it'll cost approximately $25 million, which will be shared 50-50 between the state and the federal government. So it is, in fact, a true partnership as we move forward to create more land in the state of Louisiana. So it is my pleasure to introduce my friend and my partner in this particular agreement, in this particular endeavor, and in many others that we have in the state of Louisiana, Mr. Garrett Graves.
Thank you. This agreement is truly foundational for the future of South Louisiana. As Colonel Fleming just noted, the river behind us on the map, and the river that is literally just a few hundred yards off to my left, literally built the land where we're standing on today. It built the entire southeast area of our nation. It built from Missouri south. Literally, these areas were underwater millions of years ago. This is an incredible river. And over the last several decades, we've taken some actions that have had tremendous benefit. And those actions include building levees on the Mississippi River. Incredible success, one of the most successful public works projects in our nation's history in terms of flood control and in terms of navigation. I remind you that since the 1927 flood, when shortly thereafter the Congress authorized the construction of levees on the Mississippi River system, we have not had another riverine flood. I remind you, just a few months ago, when this system was tested, it performed. And we didn't have water in downtown Baton Rouge. We didn't have water all throughout this city and all over Louisiana, as we would have had those levees not been built. So incredible success there. The second is on the navigation side. These levees have allowed the river to stay in one place. It's allowed us to maintain a deep draft navigation system that has allowed Louisiana to have 5 of the top 15 ports in the country, that has allowed Louisiana to service 31 states with maritime commerce, imports and exports, that has allowed Louisiana to be responsible for up to 20% of the maritime commerce in this nation, hundreds of billions of dollars annually. Incredible success. At the same time, we have had an extraordinary environmental disaster or adverse environmental repercussions as a result. The river, just as it built Louisiana, it built many of the states in southeastern United States. It did so by depositing sediment each year during these high water seasons, as we just saw this past spring. So we're literally standing on today in Baton Rouge. We're literally standing on river sediment. And when those levees were put in place, you cut off that relationship. You no longer allowed the sediment, the river, to deposit. You no longer allowed the river to continue to grow land or to continue to play out this deltaic plain process. And so what's happened is we've had the retreat of land. We've had the loss of land. And just a few months ago, the United States Geological Survey determined that we've lost nearly 1,900 square miles in the state of Louisiana. 1,900 square miles. And if we were some other states, we would simply no longer exist. Extraordinary area of land has been lost. And so what this is going to do, what this evaluation, what this study, this program that we're kicking off with the Corps of Engineers today, what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to determine how to replumb, how to manage this river moving forward in a manner that's sustainable. How can we ensure that we continue to have the top maritime industry in the nation? How can we continue to ensure our residents that they can build safely, that they can keep their homes there, they can keep their families there, they can keep their businesses there behind these levees? And how can we ensure that we are going to stop the encroachment of the Gulf of Mexico upon our coastal communities? Now, a couple of important notes. Number one, I want to note that Congress in 2007 authorized 7 diversions for the Mississippi River, our river system, lower river system, which includes the Atchafalaya. Those are not going to be affected. They're not going to be stopped or delayed as a result of this. This is going to inform prospective efforts. The second thing is that we're joined by some partners here and some in the audience, and I want to thank them. This wouldn't have happened today without the support, the engagement, the participation by a lot of folks, and those include the Corps of Engineers headquarters folks, Mr. Steve Stockton and his team in D.C. This includes many of the environmental community members that are represented here: Audubon Society, National Wildlife Federation, Coalition Restore Coastal Louisiana, Nature Conservancy, Mr. King Milling with America's Wetland, and if I had my glasses on, I could name other people. But a lot of folks participated in this, and I want to thank everybody and I actually left out the ports and the maritime industry that also helped get this across the goal line. So a lot of folks involved, and I want to thank everyone for their participation.
I want to thank Garrett Graves and the Colonel for inviting us here today and for moving this very important project forward. We have a tremendous task ahead, and that is both to save an ecosystem that's in collapse and to save an economy that is vital to the nation and the world. The key to both of those things is the Mississippi River. It's maintaining and, in fact, improving deep draft navigation on the river so that the ports of South Louisiana can continue to be competitive with ports in the rest of the world, and at the same time releasing the river to do what a river does, as Garrett said, which is to build a delta. We've been trying to stop this river from building a delta since we got here in 1718, and we've got to change that. We've got to let the river be itself and begin to rebuild the delta. Without it, we face a very bleak and a very wet future here in South Louisiana. So I congratulate both the state and the Corps of Engineers. What they are doing here is vital, and getting the sound scientific background that we need is the first step, but it's something that has to move forward rapidly. So that's all I have, and thank you very much.
In addition to thanking Colonel Fleming and his team for all the work on this, I also really want to thank King Milling, who has been pushing this issue on remanaging the lower river system in a sustainable manner for several years, and I want to invite him to say a few words. King Milling with America's Wetland Foundation.
Well, thank you, Garrett, and thank you, Colonel. This is a monumental day because it is, to many of us, an event which I think finally triggers that fundamental thought that we can begin the process of understanding the relative relationship between the environment, floods, and navigation. These things are compatible. These things must work in sync, and it is the only way we save this part of the world. It is the only way we save the massive river from serious default. And I want to thank, quite frankly, these two gentlemen for taking the time and effort. And I will also say having the patience to work through the issues, because they're not easy. But it's a great day for Louisiana. I think it's a great day for the Corps of Engineers. And needless to say, we look forward to seeing the results. Thank you very much.
We just announced a new agreement between the state of Louisiana and the Corps of Engineers to begin looking at the Mississippi River and identifying ways where we can manage the river and its resources in a manner that is going to be sustainable. So no longer allowing for all of the sediment in the river to just go out in the Gulf of Mexico and be wasted, and to the point to where we could actually begin putting diversions in the river, new diversions in the river. We begin using the sediment in the river to build new wetlands, to build new coastal Louisiana, just as it did naturally 80 plus years ago. And this is a big deal. It's a fundamental change, lays the groundwork for a fundamental change in the management of the river, and fundamental change in coastal Louisiana in terms of beginning to stem that land loss we've experienced for so many years and actually potentially turn it in the other direction.
This study is really two pieces. It's a model that will look at the impacts of freshwater and sediment on the Mississippi River, where a diversion could be, how deep and how wide a diversion could be, and then what time of the year we would actually operate that particular diversion. The second piece of it is a study that we would then look at once you have that freshwater and that sediment, where is the best place to use it, where is the best place to help to recreate some of the land that we've lost over the past many years.
This lays the foundation, it lays the groundwork, it justifies some of the operations that need to change. It justifies, or it shows how the current management regime is actually causing massive environmental problems in our state. It's actually putting our communities in jeopardy, our maritime industry in jeopardy, and our flood control system in jeopardy. And so this is going to justify, it's going to show us how to make the changes in the river and change federal policy to allow us to use those sediments in the fresh water in a manner that Mother Nature used to, that actually built land, and we had land accreting in South Louisiana versus this extraordinary loss.
This study is so very important to not only the state of Louisiana, but to the nation as well. We understand the importance that Louisiana has to the rest of the nation in terms of oil and gas, in terms of fishing industry, in terms of just a great way of life. And so it's important for us to do this, and what we hope to do is we hope to recreate some of the land that we've lost over the past few years.